Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today I'm going to tell you how I mounted a couple of 100-watt solar panels on the top of my Openroad Roof Top Tent. I did a video on the Openroad tent, kind of talking about features and stuff. If you're looking for a good budget-priced, hard shell, clamshell style rooftop tent with a lot of leg room, a lot of headroom, and a lot of great features on it really for the money, this is an awesome tent. You should go check out that video. I'll put a card up here to it so you can check that out if you want. But again, today I'm going to be talking about how I mounted a couple of solar panels to the top of this thing to charge my dual battery system in my 2023 Nissan Frontier. So again, if you want to learn more about how to mount solar on an Openroad rooftop tent, or really it should work pretty much the same for any of these clamshell style rooftop tents with crossbars, stay tuned.
You got it, I got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me.
All right, guys, so as I mentioned in the intro, today I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about how I mounted I've got two 100-watt eco-worthy solar panels that I mounted on the top of the crossbars for my Openroad rooftop tent. Again, this is an awesome rooftop tent. I'll put a link to it in the description below. I'll also put a link to these solar panels that I got and the Y splitters that I used to kind of sync them up and make both panels feed into my red arc system, which is what's actually controlling the dual battery system that I've got on my car. If you want to learn more about that, I did a couple videos on that, and I will put links in the description down below and a card in the top right corner here to show you a little bit more on kind of how I've had this hooked up historically. I've actually used this system across 3 different vehicles. One was my old Titan swapped 2nd gen Frontier. One before that was an Xterra that I had a solar panel mounted on the hood. And then now I finally switched from my Renogy 100-watt panel to these dual 100-watt panels to double basically my input from solar. I'm also going to hop in the cab here in a second. I'm going to show you how much power this is producing. Now, as you can see, it's kind of in partial shade right now, so it's not perfect, but it is a pretty sunny day, so it should be a decent representation of how much power these things are putting out into the 200 amp hour house battery that I've got in my setup right now. And so as far as how I mounted these up, I wanted easy. So with the Openroad specifically, the crossbars are really close to the tent. They're actually almost sitting on top of it flush. So when I got my tent, they were already mounted to the tent. I didn't even have to install them. I did check these bolts, but they have Allen heads to attach the crossbars, and there's 4 different positions. So mine are in the outermost positions, and then there's 2 in the middle. I would recommend spreading them out as far as possible. So going the way that I've got it, which is in the outermost holes, if you specifically have this tent, just because you want as little flux and flex in the ends of the panel as possible. Then what I did basically was, my panels are about 39.5 inches long. I measured about 5 inches from the front back to the front of this cross member, and then I lined them up so that they were equal and straight. And then essentially what I did was, these do not come with brackets, but I have these brackets laying around. And again, I'm going to look on Amazon, and I will put links in the description to some similar brackets, things like this that you could use. I had to modify mine slightly. As you can see, there's a couple holes. There's one there, and then there was one there. I used a drill press, but you could use a handheld drill too. And I just drilled out a hole so that it would match up with these spaces in the crossbars. And then I used some channel bolts and matching nuts, which again, I will put links to those in the description down below as well, but those work perfect for this Openroad rooftop tent. But you basically drop them down into the channels, these channel nuts. They've got a flat head that holds them under this lip, and then you put your nuts on and you tighten those down. Before I did that though, I went ahead and I put all of my bolts in, so they were all just sitting here loose in the channels. And then what I did was I used self-tapping screws with washers, because again, these don't come with any brackets or anything, and I didn't want to have to mess with trying to get my fingers up and underneath this lip. There is like a lip underneath of here to try and get a bolt and a nut on there and do all that, and then you have to pre-attach these things, and makes it way harder to line them up because they've got to be pretty much just about exactly perfect to match up with these channels. So again, I basically laid these panels up on top here. I put my brackets on the bolts here, and then I use self-tapping screws to screw them in. Now you do have to watch it a little bit because you don't want them to get crooked. As you can see on this side, I'm just a tiny bit crooked there. So I did lose maybe 1/4 of an inch or so there, but overall it's not too bad. But so you do want to make sure that they're straight. And then I just sunk my self-tappers into the side of the frame. Now, of course, you do want to be careful not to hit the solar panel, but these things have this nice about 1-inch aluminum frame. And so these self-tappers went straight in. So I've got 8 self-tappers, which I think should be plenty. And you can see here, I mean, this thing is, I'm shaking it as hard as I can, and this thing does not even move at all. It doesn't move an inch. So, you know, once you're done doing your bolts, of course, you want to just shake it and just say, that's not going anywhere. That's really the way to confirm that things are going to be great. So I did do that, of course. But yeah, basically, once you put your self tappers in there, you've got these all lined up, then all you have to do is sink down these nuts onto these channel bolts until they're tight. And again, just line them up. I threw a measuring tape in here and I'm about 2 inches. That's how long my bracket is from the rail to the solar panel itself. And I just made sure that, again, it was straight front to back. And then I did the same over here. So I'm about 2 inches away from each side. And then there's just this space in the middle, which is maybe about 7-8 inches. But I didn't even measure that. That doesn't matter. Then towards the front there, as you can see, there are these cables. So basically you get these 2 Y splitters that will take your 2 positives and your 2 negatives and condense them into one output, which you then hook up to whatever you're using to control it. So if you bought, I will put a link in the description too, like a solar controller. I had a Renogy PMW that worked just fine. It's a very inexpensive controller. You could run these wires straight into the some sort of just a solar controller, and then you could put that into your starter battery. Or again, if you have a dual battery system, some sort of controller, you could run that in through your solar input. There are really a million ways that you could run it, but it's a very simple positive and negative connection that you could just make straight to your battery if you wanted to, just to keep your battery topped off. Now, 200 watts would be pretty much overkill for something like that. Again, I'm trying to keep a 200 amp hour battery charge that's going to run a fridge and a diesel heater and a bunch of electronics and recharge chainsaw batteries and camera batteries and things like that. So I have higher needs, but you could do a single one of these panels too really easily into a simple controller and then into your starter battery and basically never have to worry about having a dead battery again, pretty much. So again, that's how I mounted it. Really, really simple. Again, I'll put links to all these things in the description down below so you can go find them really easy. One last tip is I did use some zip ties, some big long zip ties, and I pulled the cords just underneath of the solar. So, and I'll walk around here and I'll show you the front, but they are just hidden underneath the solar panel. So they're out of the elements. The connections are not exposed. But you do want to make sure that you leave enough slack in your cord. And again, I'll walk over here to the side so that when you open your rooftop tent, it's not pulling on that cord. So let's go around to the front and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so as you can see, my solar drops right down into there, and then this is my battery box. So I actually have this big Plano crate with a huge 200 amp hour house battery in the bed of my truck, and usually I have a drawer system that goes in front of that, and that kind of pushes it up against the back of the truck so that it doesn't move. But then that solar goes up through here, these cords. I ran up here just with some zip ties, and then it runs up behind my awning, and it goes up on top there, and it goes underneath the solar panels. So that is basically how that works. And then again, those Y splitters take the 2 panels and turn them into one output that then runs down these cords and goes straight into my dual battery and keeps that topped off. So now let's hop in here and let's look at the red arc and see how much power we're producing. So right now in, mostly sun, but somewhat partial sun, I'm pulling in about 8.3 amps off those panels. I was at 71% because I haven't had solar hooked up for a couple weeks, and it's just kind of slowly been parasitic dropping. But again, it says right now it's going to take 2 days to charge this thing up. So probably within a few days, I should be at 100% power. So with this much capacity, it's going to make a huge difference in how fast I can charge this big battery. All right, guys, so that will do it for how I mounted solar on top of the Openroad rooftop tent. Again, this should work for pretty much any type of rooftop tent, clamshell style. As long as it's a hard top with crossbars, you should be able to do it a very similar way. Obviously, if yours is slightly different, you may have to adapt it a little bit, but hopefully this gives you some ideas for how to do it and makes it a little bit easier on you. If it was helpful, click that like button. If you're not already, make sure to click the subscribe button, click the bell to be notified when new videos drop. I do a couple every week, so there's tons of content here for you, especially if you're newer to overlanding or looking for like gear type stuff about budget-minded and good quality gear for overlanding and camping. Also in the description down below will be links to all my other social channels. So again, wherever you want to hang out, I'd love to have you. Check those out. There's also a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding camping themed patches and stickers. Great quality stuff, Velcro back patches, high quality stickers. So if you're looking for something like that to add to your rig, that may be a good place to check out. Also below this video is a join button. This is something newer that YouTube is trying. Basically, it's a passive way to support the channel. If you enjoy the content, you want to kind of, just support the channel, that's a good way to do it. Plus you get early access to some of the videos. Also in the description below are links to my Patreon page where we have a 24/7 Discord. We all kind of chat about our rigs and our gear and stuff. And we also have a call once a month, and we're doing a couple trips every year. So if you're more active and want to be more involved with all things overlanding, that may be a good option. And then last but not least, there is the Newbie Overlanders Facebook group. Totally free to join. Awesome place with tons of awesome members, different from the big groups where you get bullied just for asking a question. So if you're looking for a place to kind of belong that isn't going to bully you for asking questions and you can learn about overlanding, that's a great place to start. But again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
it.